Well, hello there, my friends. I have a classic tale to tell you, to read to you today, and it is called The Hare and the Tortoise. And this particular version is by Carol Jones. And I have to tell you that the illustrations are absolutely beautiful. They're very dense. There's a lot on each page, so I want to make sure I hold it up nice and steady for the camera so you can get a good look at each illustration. So this is an old classic story, and it's got a moral, a lesson at the end. So see if you can guess it as we're listening, and we'll talk about it a little at the end. The Hare and the Tortoise. The air was clear and crisp as a new day dawned in the forest. Down a winding trail jogged Hare on his regular early morning training run. Out from a hole in the ground popped the sleepy head of Mole. He had been awakened by the thumping on his bedroom ceiling. "Inconsiderate fellow," Mole grumbled as Hare disappeared around a bend in the track. "He wakes me every morning on his training run." Hare, with his chest puffed out as he jogged, called out loudly to no one in particular, "I'm the fastest runner in the forest. No one can beat me." That same morning, Tortoise was enjoying a bowl of lettuce and dandelion soup for breakfast while catching up on the news in the Forest Daily. As usual, Hare was featured in the sports section. He had won yet another important race, and the report suggested that Hare may become the forest's first Olympic champion. Tortoise frowned. Hare really is becoming a little too confident for his own good. Let's see here if I can get this up close. Farther down the track, Hare stopped near a sturdy oak tree. Mrs. Squirrel was farewelling her children as they left for school. Hare loved an audience. He reached up to an overhanging branch and began doing chin-ups. Badger came out of his front door to collect his milk and paper. He frowned and gave Hare a disapproving look. 17, 18, 19, 20, panted Hare. "What a conceited show-off," muttered Badger to Mrs. Squirrel. Meanwhile, Tortoise had finished his breakfast and reading the paper. He looked out the window and saw that it was a fine, sunny morning. "Just the perfect day for a spot of fishing," he thought. "I'll try and catch some fish for lunch." Tortoise packed his fishing basket, slung it over his back, and ambled off towards the stream. A friendly Willy Wagtail offered Tortoise a worm for bait, and a snail decided to tag along for the ride. Tortoise had just settled down happily by the stream with his fishing rod when Hare came racing by. Hare stopped, did some stretching exercises, and eyed Tortoise with disdain. "You lazy Tortoise, sitting down all day," said Hare scornfully. "You'll never stay fit and healthy fishing. It beats running around in circles." "What's that good for?" replied Tortoise, casting his line out into the river. "Everyone knows that I'm the fastest hare in the forest, and that I win every race I'm in," boasted Hare. "It's not always the fastest who wins," muttered Tortoise, "especially when he is so silly and boastful." "Silly, am I?" retorted Hare, frowning indignantly. "And boastful? I'll show you a thing or two. Let's settle this with a race." "Excellent," agreed Tortoise. "A race of about 10 miles would suit me fine," he said, smiling confidently to himself. Hare couldn't believe his ears. He threw back his head and laughed until the tears ran down his furry face. "You're the foolish one," he chortled. "You know I'm the champion of the forest and that no one can beat me." "We'll see," replied Tortoise. "I'll race you next Saturday at noon." "You're on," sniggered Hare. 10 miles next Saturday. See you then." Hare raced off quickly, eager to begin some more training. It was the day of the race. Everyone in the forest was excited about the challenge and wanted to be part of it. Badger had appointed himself as the race referee and had nailed up the race rules. A group of young rabbits under Mr. Fox's supervision were sent out to mark the course with red flags. Mole popped his head out to see what all the activity was about. When he learned of the race, Mole became an immediate supporter of Tortoise. "That young upstart of a Hare needs to be taken down a peg or two." But Hare was not without his own support. A group of hares from his running club had turned up, ready to have a good laugh at Tortoise's expense. Hare arrived early for the race, sporting a brand new pair of air-cushioned running shoes. Immediately on arrival, he began doing an elaborate series of stretching and warm-up exercises. Finally, with only 2 minutes to the starting time, Tortoise ambled up to the starting line. "I was just about to claim a forfeit," said Hare, "and then I could have a decent race with my friends." Tortoise ignored Hare's taunts. A very serious Badger gave the pair the race instructions. "We'll have no jostling at the start and no cutting off," he said. "Now, take your marks." Before he crouched down, Hare sneered at Tortoise. "I'll wait for you at the finish line, but only for 1 hour." Tortoise didn't reply, but just smiled to himself. Badger dropped a red handkerchief to start the race, and amid some excited cheering from the spectators, they were off. Hare raced away from the start like an express train. He was soon around the first bend in the race and setting a cracking pace, which caused some rabbits, who were sauntering across the track, to jump out of the speedster's way. "Poor old Tortoise doesn't have a chance," said one of the young rabbits. In no time at all, Hare passed the fence where Owl, one of the course officials, was sitting. "Give my regards to Tortoise when you see him in an hour or two," Hare sniggered as he raced off towards the halfway mark. At the same time, Tortoise had just managed to drag his back feet across the starting line. Hedgehog, feeling sorry for his friend, decided he would accompany Tortoise to give him some support. A stern badger called out to Hedgehog, "If you assist Tortoise in any way, he will be disqualified." Tortoise smiled to himself. He was happy to plod along at his own pace, knowing he had the support of his friends. Hare raced on, past the halfway mark. On a long straight stretch of the course he looked back, but Tortoise was nowhere in sight. "What a stupid race," Hare remarked to a group of spectators lining the course. "I should never have agreed to such a ridiculous challenge. It's really beneath my dignity." As he was so far in front, Hare decided to have a rest. He sat down beneath a shady tree and pulled off his new running shoes. He closed his eyes, and the sweet aromas of the forest flowers drifted past his nose and soon lulled him off into a deep sleep. His body was very tired from all the hard training he'd been doing every morning and evening. The sun was going down when the determined figure of Tortoise shuffled past. A smile appeared on his face when he glanced at the sleeping Hare. Tortoise's supporters were delighted to see Hare sound asleep. "We hope you sleep all night," they chuckled. Now that he was in the lead, a happy Tortoise plodded on, enjoying the encouragement of his forest friends. A family of frogs jumped into their pond and splashed water all over Tortoise to cool him down. He was feeling very hot under his shell after so many hours of trudging along the racetrack. "Thank you so much, frogs. I appreciate your help and encouragement," he said politely. It was nearly evening when Hare awoke with a start. An ant had bitten him on the leg. Hare rubbed his eyes and stared in disbelief. Tortoise was way ahead and near the finish line. A feeling of panic gripped Hare. He grabbed his shoes and raced off, not even stopping to put them on. He ran faster than he'd ever run before. "I must win," he panted. "My reputation depends on it. I'll never live it down if a tortoise beats me." Owl and Mole stared in disbelief as Hare flashed by. Tortoise was given a rousing welcome as he plodded towards the finishing line. "Tortoise is going to win," shouted a surprised little rabbit. "Maybe not," replied his friend. "Look, here comes Hare." Down the track flew Hare, traveling so fast that his legs didn't appear to be touching the ground. Tortoise ambled on. Hare made a desperate lunge at the finish line, but it was too late. Tortoise had just pulled himself across. "You've beaten me," gasped an infuriated Hare. Tortoise turned slowly towards his rival. "Yes," he said with a smile. "You teased me because I was not as fast as you." But, and here comes the moral, slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race. So what does that mean? Slow and steady wins the race. I mean, really, if you had a hare rabbit racing against like a turtle or the tortoise, the rabbit would win. I mean, it moves a lot quicker, but this guy didn't win. He had some issues. He liked to brag to everybody, and of course nobody likes that. And he just, he thought he was so much better, and he became overconfident. And when he took that nap, that messed it up for himself. So that's the moral of the story. So I guess, okay, so your assignment could be this. What kind of advice do you think? So after this is over, and we can tell that Tortoise is a really, has a lot of friends. He must be a really good friend to everybody. So after this is all over, I am sure that Tortoise is not going to be a poor sport and brag to Hare and say, ha, 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 I beat you. He's not going to do that. What advice do you think, after this is all over, Tortoise would give to Hare? What good words of wisdom do you think he would have for him? Like how to, improve himself, or what he should avoid doing, things like that. So what do you think about that? All right, just, this one's really not a long assignment. I mean, if you want to write a little bit about it, or draw a picture, what do you think? All right. Well, that's it for our story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. A classic. All right, my friends. See you later.